Welcome to another edition of Fireside Financials, and everyone, we have officially made it. We have, well, maybe I should say I have the ridiculous smoking jacket. I have the gold chain with my gold Froggo. We actually have a live fireplace this time. Not only is the fireplace real, but the fire is real. So all of the elements have finally come together. This is a magical moment, and I just appreciate you being here to witness it. All right, let's dive in. So for this episode, we are talking about auto insurance and why it's possible that you are underinsured. So I know that insurance is not always the most exciting of topics, but it's a very important one. So today, we're going to cover auto insurance. To start, let's just give a brief primer on what insurance is and why it came to exist. I'll keep it short, don't worry. Insurance is there to help you cover the cost of replacing or reimbursing you to pay to replace things that generally are so expensive they'd be really hard to cover on your own. So for example, a house or oftentimes a car, right? These are things that can cost tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so to help make sure that you don't have to pay all of that money up front, if your house were to burn down and you had a $300,000 house, insurance helps spread the risk over a bunch of different people who pay in to various insurance plans. And so, hopefully not everybody's house burns down at the same time, or else the insurance company wouldn't be able to cover that from the income coming in from the pool. But generally, right, for acts that are rare but catastrophic in terms of either the damage or the cost, insurance spreads it out across a risk pool. Now, why talk about auto insurance today? Well, the reason is many people are actually underinsured when it comes to auto insurance. So it's one of those things where, of course, we don't want to pay more for insurance than we have to, but auto insurance, the minimums aren't that high, and so we leave ourselves pretty vulnerable to having to pay outside, right? Having to cover the cost with our own cash if we are underinsured, and oftentimes we can be more underinsured than we think. So there are, just to give some basics, three main parts to auto insurance. I'll keep it quick since this isn't the most exciting part, but there is bodily injury. So that's any damage you have to yourself or the driver or occupants of any other vehicle, right? So medical expenses would be an example of things you would be on the hook for and would be covered under an auto insurance policy. Another one, number two, would be property. So that is, for example, the other person's car would be the most obvious example. But also, let's say that you sideswipe someone's car and then hit a telephone pole, and it costs money to replace the telephone pole, right? Then that would be a cost of property and be covered, at least in part, depending on how much you pay for coverage, by your auto insurance policy. And last is the underinsured or uninsured motorist policy. Part of the policy, excuse me. So there, I think it's 1 out of 6, 1 out of 7, it's some very high number of people on the road are actually uninsured or underinsured. So this is the part of your insurance that you pay into to make sure that when you hit a motorist, or I guess when a motorist hits you, who is uninsured or underinsured, that you can still be covered, since they likely wouldn't be able to pay for the costs out of pocket, and they wouldn't have any insurance to do so on their behalf. So why you may be underinsured, I just want to give a hypothetical example, and this is not to scare you. I don't sell auto insurance, so it's not like I'm trying to sell you a policy, but it's important to know how being underinsured can impact you and how kind of being in the wrong situation can really make the expenses add up that you would be on the hook for. So let's imagine that you're driving and you hit another motorist and it totals their car, and that motorist happens to be a doctor. This could be a doctor, a lawyer, someone who makes a healthy income, and we're gonna, for just this example, say they make $300,000 a year. Their Porsche that they were driving cost $100,000, and the medical expenses that they had also cost $100,000. Okay, so right off the bat, the bodily injury to the other person, and we're not going to include ourselves just for the ease of this, $100,000 medical bills for the person in the other car, that doctor, $100,000 for the car to replace it, for the other person's car, again, not taking into account your own, And let's assume that because they had $100,000 in medical bills, the injury to them was bad enough that they weren't able to work for a year. They could sue your auto insurance company for lost wages, right? And so if that doctor makes $300,000 a year, they could sue you for that $300,000. So let's assume that they're able to get that judgment, $100,000 for their car, $100,000 for their medical bills, and $300,000 for their lost wages. That's $500,000. And yes, that is more, yeah, it's a more expensive car than most. That is someone who makes a greater income than most. But even, for most minimum insurance policies where it's like $50,000 in total coverage, or, the way that they have them is usually split down into 3 numbers by bodily, property, and uninsured. The minimum insurance is not usually more than like $50,000, $25,000 in some states, or even if you had $100,000, right? It adds up very, very quickly. And so if you only had $100,000 in total coverage on your plan and that previous scenario happened, you could be on the hook for the remaining $400,000. Wages could be garnished. Right? It is not a situation you want to be in. And so it's important to talk to an insurance person who you actually trust, to be able to help you figure out what is the right amount of coverage for you, how much more does it cost to get that extra level of coverage, and peace of mind that comes with it. So I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments, as always, and I would love to hear your feedback on any future Fireside Financial episodes that you want to hear down the line. Thank you so much for watching.